Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 1, Episode 8, The Elysian Kingdom, was by far the best episode this season. And that's hilarious, because all they did was embrace the cheese, and this wasn't really even Star Trek, unless you count, like, those episodes where they get hit by plant spores and everybody acts in a different way than they are usually written.
I think that's why this was watchable.
Yes.
Because nobody was acting like those horrible characters they developed for them in Strange New Worlds.
Yes. And this also showed me that it is 100% definitely the writing that's horrible about this show, not the actors themselves, because they definitely pulled this off in a major way. Even the Ortegas character, well, the actress who plays Ortegas, she was made for a role like this. I mean, she actually was good. I enjoyed watching her in this because she pulled it off.
Yeah, the character she was playing when she was taking on the character from that novel was a impetuous type, I don't know, warrior or knight or whatever. So her annoying, quippy nature fit with that character.
Yeah.
I agree. Like everybody, a discount drummer, she was playing this over-the-top
a princess. She literally was playing a princess.
And she did a really good job playing an over-the-top, cheesy princess.
Yeah.
Uhura, I think, was playing a queen.
Yes,
an evil
Queen Nev. Yes, an evil queen. And she was awesome
at that. And she
played
that well. Ethan Peck played...
Well, he looked like Legolas.
Yeah.
So he looked like Elnor from Picard, but...
I thought he looked more like Snape from Harry Potter.
Yeah, he was playing a wizard. Which I guess the Snape thing would definitely come in with that. But again, it is another instance where, I mean, I've said before that I've seen Ethan Peck in other shows, and he is not a bad actor. Playing Spock, I mean, a lot of it has to do with the writing, and I don't know what kind of direction they give him as far as how he should be playing Spock. But again, what is he to do when he is given a script where Spock is so insecure when he's asking Nurse Chapel for help with his love life? I mean, really, what is an actor to do when they're handed crap like that?
And Dr. Mbenga, who actually played his doctor character, he was like one of the two characters that was still themselves. He did a good job. Again, you can see if you gave this guy better lines, he could do a better job. I actually, for the first time, well, you're 8 episodes in, I actually believe now that he was a father and that he and his daughter had a relationship, a loving father-daughter relationship. This is the first time they gave any sort of performance that made me want to believe that.
Yeah.
And the little bit that Hemmer was in it, again, this reinforces the actor who plays Hemmer, if he had better lines, he could be a really kick-ass character.
Yep.
Because he was one of the two characters that remembered he was himself. And there was a scene toward the end where he was playing this wizard. I guess he was the wizard role. And he was delivering these lines because he was trying to sell what magic he was going to do.
Well, a scientist trying to pretend to be a wizard to people who were afraid of boomsticks.
But he was selling this line, I mean, with some dramatic oomph to it, where if you just gave this guy better lines, he could be a really good character. I think the actor actually is pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Mbenga and Hemmer, they were incredible together, just playing their own characters when they were actually allowed to do so. That's part of the problem, is that these two characters have been so underutilized so far this season. They've barely been in the show.
Well, Dr. Mbenga was like the assistant to sickbay. Nurse Chapel ran everything. And he was actually allowed to be a star. This was his episode.
Yes, it was.
He did a very good job. At least I thought he did a very good job.
Yeah.
This episode was good because none of the horrible characters that are in this series, they weren't around. They were playing these characters from this book. That's why this was enjoyable. They were cheesing it up in the book. None of the horrible Star Trek, Starfleet, whatever the heck you want to call them characters were being portrayed. That's why I sat through this, and I was honestly surprised. We only paused it a couple of times. Even your mom and sister said they enjoyed this episode, and it was the best they saw of this series. Mm-hmm. I would argue this was the best of Discovery, Picard, and Strange New Worlds, as far as just sitting and enjoying something in front.
Yeah.
Was this Star Trek? Yeah, I mean, the ending with the energy, whatever, maybe. But it was mostly just because it was cheese. But it was well done cheese.
Yeah, they embraced the cheese. It was great. I wish we would get more episodes written by these two writers. Because in this episode, essentially what it was, they went out there and they were checking out a nebula. And as it turned out, there was a consciousness in the nebula. It took over the ship and everyone except for Dr. Mabenga and Hemmer. And it had increased their dopamine levels to the point where they would play along with the story that Dr. Mabenga had been reading his daughter. As it turned out, this consciousness in the nebula had probed their ship and discovered Dr. Mabenga's daughter in the transporter buffer and sensed the loneliness that she was feeling while being in there. And it was the same loneliness that the nebula was feeling. So the nebula created this story to make Dr. Mabenga's daughter happy. It was very well written. Even the end left something to discuss as to did he do the right thing? Because at the end, Dr. Mabenga has to make the decision whether or not to continue to keep his daughter in the buffer in the hopes that maybe he might find a cure someday, to which he was no closer to finding now than he was at the beginning of the season, or to allow her to go and essentially live without a body in the nebula. He chose to let her go, which I guess, it's that whole if you love something, set it free thing. Yeah, because it brings the question up. I mean, who was he keeping her in the buffer for? Was he doing that for himself, or was he doing that for his daughter? So he asked her what she wanted. That's where I kind of have a problem with this, because he asked this little child what she wanted. Did she want to stay in the buffer in the hopes that he finds a cure? Or did she want to go and live in the nebula? And she chose the nebula. After that, like a few seconds later, you see this full-grown version of his daughter come back. And even though it's only been a few seconds for Dr. Mabenga, it's been years for his daughter. She told him he made the right decision. Apparently, she has been living her best life out there with the nebula. It comes back to, I don't know. I still, even though they want us to believe at the end, yes, he did the right thing. Was it really the right thing? I don't know, because, again, he allowed a child to make the decision as to whether or not she wanted to live a mortal human life in the hopes that maybe she would be cured and then have a normal lifespan as a human, normal things a human would do, possibly relationships, possible have children of her own, that kind of stuff, or just go live in this nebula, which we really don't understand how or what that was.
And by living in this nebula, I mean, it's a non-corporeal form.
Yes.
Converted into energy and sitting in the nebula in a non-corporeal form.
Yeah, so I mean, it brings back the question, though, at least for me, does this mean she was ascended? Kind of like on Stargate when Daniel Jackson died and was given the choice to ascend or to, I guess, try to see if maybe he could get better in his own body or even just die, and he chose to ascend.
I'm trying to remember, wasn't he? Like he was hit with some radiation and he was dying, wasn't it?
Yes. This was when Corin Nemec's planet. Yeah, he was hit by radiation and he was dying. And he was given the opportunity to ascend and he took it.
So this episode did have shades of that. It had shades of the Next Generation episode where there was that imaginary friend that was walking around with that other little girl and Deanna Troi.
Mm-hmm.
This also had a little bit of like some of the Q stuff, the Q Robin Hood episode.
Yes.
But this was a nice mix, which I don't often say about this show. This was a nice mix of things. It worked. I wouldn't mind watching this again just to laugh at the cheese.
Yeah, that was great, because we haven't talked about Anson Mount yet. And the character that he played was a big coward and a disloyal one at that.
Plus, he had a stupid haircut. So.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah, I mean, so as bad as his hair usually is with that big bouffant thing,
mm-hmm.
This was parted in a way that made him look like an absolute dork. It's funny. It just goes to show that that guy actually is a pretty versatile actor as well, because he can play the borderline arrogant Captain Pike. And he can also play this weenie, dorky, obsequious piece of shit that he played in this episode. It was nice to see him playing the opposite of what we usually see.
Yeah, because the story of the story they were telling was Dr. Mbenga was this king. And this other kingdom, I guess, was looking for the stone.
The Mercury Stone.
That was supposed to be like a
powerful weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it turns out the stone was a metaphor for, I guess, his daughter, because his daughter turned out to be the stone.
Yeah.
That part, living in the story like that, you think about the story, it didn't make a lot of sense, but just going with the cheesy performances, I enjoyed it. Pike was playing an assistant to Mbenga's king, except he was this cowardly, not very helpful assistant.
Oh, God. It was terrible. But that's how he was written, and he pulled it off. I mean, it was fantastic. Even my sister looked at him and said, you know, he doesn't seem very attractive now. Which I thought was hilariously funny. Like, even my mom and my sister enjoyed this episode, and they apparently have hated all the rest of them.
But this was only the performances while they were in the storybook characters.
Yeah.
This is not an improvement on
the show as a whole.
Show itself, because next week they're probably going to go back to being their normal characters. Discount Drummer is going to be the horrible character that she is. Ortegas is going to be the horrible character she is. Dr. Mbenga took a step forward with his character development. Mm-hmm. And Hemmer, although I really liked Hemmer's character, Hemmer was good in this. He had some good lines. He delivered some good lines. I wish they would spend more time with the Hemmer character because I think that's one of the strengths of this show. Probably one of the only strengths of this show is if they worked on the Hemmer character, I think they could maybe develop one likable character.
Yep.
Maybe two. Dr. Mbenga, up to this point, it's not like I disliked him. He just didn't do anything. He just seemed like Nurse Chapel ran everything.
He was sidelined. But yeah, if Hemmer and the Doctor were the main characters on this show permanently, it would be a much better show.
Yeah. Hemmer's good. I really think they could make that a good character. The actor did a good performance in this episode.
Yeah. But the thing is, I think if you did put two characters of their age, because they're both older, if they put them at the forefront, they wouldn't be able to have all that petty, stupid crap that they have with those younger ones, like the Spock to Pring Chapel love triangle. You know, it wouldn't be as
I think that's
insipid.
I think that's part of why this episode I was able to tolerate.
Yeah.
There wasn't any weird... There was like a little side joke about some relationship between the book characters. But for the most part, this didn't have any weird relationship crap. It was just telling this fantasy story.
Yeah.
And because none of that current day politics crap was in there, I actually enjoyed it.
Yep, same here.
And I think it's a one-off. I think next week is going to go back to the same crap.
So I can't believe I'm about to say this, but yeah, if you just want to watch something cheesy and have a good time, this was actually a good episode to do that.
This was not great Star Trek, but you want to watch something cheesy and just have a good time and laugh. Intended laugh, not eating car batteries laugh. Because these people who make this stuff, they don't understand humor normally. So when they try to do funny stuff, it's not funny. These writers, the two that wrote this, I think they got humor.
Yes.
The jokes here, most of them landed.
Yes.
It was funny. So this is the first time, not unintentional like eating car batteries, but this was the first time where these people tried to make something funny and it worked.
Yep.
So I would recommend it also for doing that. I don't think it's great Star Trek, but it was a nice cheesy time. 45 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever.
Yeah, 54 minutes.
If you just want to have a cheesy, laughy time, this episode will actually do that.
Yep. Yeah. So, can't believe I said that, but love to hear everybody else's thoughts on this. Let us know what you thought of this episode.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave comments down there as well. I try my best to get through the comments. It's usually like a half a day later after you guys post them, but I do try to answer everybody there. So please feel free to have debates here. Maybe you guys didn't like it as much as we did, or you think it's heresy that we're even giving any partial recommendation for this. So go ahead and put it in the comments.
It wasn't Star Trek, but it was a good time.
Yep.
So anyways, now to do the Orville.
Take care.